Great. So welcome everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're joining from. So we are bringing you yet another webinar this month. And today we have Stratodesk, who is our Citrix Ready key partner. So to start with, we all know we have various challenges managing the IT infrastructure, right? So we strive hard to improve employee productivity, we strive hard to give them good experience, employee experience. We also want to give our users the highest secured devices and infrastructure. And also, how about giving all of this at a low cost of ownership? Don't we be excited to see how we can achieve together, right? So in the next 30 to 45 minutes, we're going to exactly walk you through on how we achieve them. By end of this webinar, we will show you how Stratodesk will enable you to create the ideal digital workspace for our users. So I'm going to start showing my screen. Let me know if you can see it, Paul.
Yep, that's coming through.
Okay. Great. So like I mentioned, so the main topic of today is we're going to see how Stratodesk have partnered with Citrix and how they can help us creating the digital workspace for our Citrix users. So this is the agenda for today. We have lined up to start with introduction. We're going to talk about Citrix Ready program. We're going to talk about Citrix and Stratodesk partnership, and we'll definitely walk you through about the end goal and how to achieve better balance with the employee needs and security demands that we just discussed about. And Paul has lined up a wonderful demo, a live demo, and then we are going to end the session with question and answer session. So, as I mentioned, and I also talked to Paul already. So Paul is our speaker from Stratodesk, who is working as Global Solutions Engineer. Paul, go ahead and introduce yourself, and I'll continue after you.
No problem. So, hello everybody. My name is Paul Craddock. I'm a solutions engineer for Stratodesk. I've been with the company for over 4 years now, but I guess my experience in the desktop virtualization arena, must be over 20 years now. Going as far back as NT4 Terminal Server Edition. So I've been around the block a little bit. I'm excited to present to you today, along with Manju, and to showcase just what we can do for you at Stratodesk.
Great, thank you, Paul. And it feels great to have you here as well on this webinar. So we look forward for a wonderful demo and your presentation. So my name is Manju Nathagali. I work as Senior Manager in the Citrix Ready program. So one of my primary responsibility is to help technology partners like Stratodesk to develop, integrate, and validate their solutions as Citrix Ready and co-promote like the way we are doing this on this webinar today. So to move on, before we kickstart the webinar, a few housekeeping items. So you can use the Zoom Q&A option to ask your questions. I know you will have many questions during the webinar. So we will spend 5 to 10 minutes at the end of this webinar to take your questions, and either Paul or I will answer them. In case if you're unable to, we will definitely get back to you on email answering all your questions. Like we mentioned, this webinar is being recorded, and post-webinar, we'll share the slides along with the webinar recording as well. So let's get started. So about the Citrix Ready program, the program is a technology partner program. We are here to help our technology partners to build integrations, develop the product to showcase the compatibility with Citrix products and services. So the program is one of the leading technology partner program. We have been in this business for over 16 years now. We have an association with over 720 technology partners. That's a huge number. And we have verified over 5,300 products, and we have been verifying over 52 different product types from our partner technology, right? So, and how we do that is basically by writing a test kit in terms of replicating the use case of how those how those devices or applications or peripherals will be used by end of the day on your infrastructure. We are going to replicate those use cases and validate in the form of test cases. And we know what to expect as a result. So we ensure these devices are integrated, tested, and validated with the expected results that we have set. So Stratodesk is one among the 720 partners that we are talking, and they have done the validations of all their operating systems and endpoints and thin clients that they have. So this program is for all the partners of every size, region, and vertical and type. So all the test kits that we have are engineering approved. That means our engineering team will help us write the test kit by just, like I mentioned, by evaluating or replicating the customer use cases. And we collaborate our partners and the product engineering teams and partners to help support this initiative as well. So, and the program has three main stakeholders, right? So before we talk about the stakeholders, in the program, we primarily concentrate on verifying applications, data center solutions, endpoints and peripherals, security devices and applications, and then services. So like I mentioned, we have been verifying over 52 different product types. That includes application, security devices, security products, all of that. So the three stakeholders that I talked about are customers, partners, and Citrix ourselves. So for customers, why do they need to refer Citrix Study program? It's all about getting the assured compatible products that are known to work with Citrix products and services. And also, these verified products will help making your purchasing decision very easy. And we give you the power of choice to make from the ones that are Citrix Study verified, right? So this is purely a top benefit for you being as a customer to choose the products that you want, and to ensure that it works. We are here and we have done that work already. And for partners like Stratodesk, it gives them higher level of engagement with Citrix. We do lead gen, demand gen activities and opportunities for them. And they get higher visibility with Citrix properties and events. So wherever we have a presence, we give them an opportunity for them to participate and co-market and co-sell with us. And what's about Citrix? It's all about showcasing the joint partner solutions which complement our technology. Our technology do not have end-to-end solutions, what you need for the infrastructure, but with partners like Stratodesk, for example, will help showcasing a complement solution which will work together. And we create stronger compute value, and we also create a stronger product integration story by end of the day, which helps address every business use case and challenges that you may have. So we have a marketplace which showcases all the products and solutions that we have been validating and listing on that marketplace. So through this program, and the program itself is only the source for you as a customer to evaluate or to choose a partner verified products, which will help you making your purchase decision very simple and easy. The Citrix Study Marketplace is the go-to place for you. If you've not been there, the URL is citrixstudy.citrix.com. So we have listed all the 5,300 products that have been validated as Citrix Study. So the main objective of this program is to ensure we give you the trusted solutions. We give you enough choice to make from the ones that are Citrix Study validated, and we bring out the value for the investment and time that you invest on our marketplace or with our partnership. Now, Stratodesk has released one of the latest operating system called No Touch OS. This is all about we're going to talk today. Now, Stratodesk is a key Citrix Study partner. Like I mentioned, they have this association with us for 10 years, and they have done the development, including the Citrix Study Workspace Hub as well, besides the endpoint validations. So almost all the Stratodesk endpoints have been validated with virtual apps and desktops primarily, and the Citrix Desk. Majority of the devices are verified with cloud, and some of the devices have badges for endpoint premium as well, meaning those devices are premium endpoints which can serve 3D application use cases or knowledge worker use cases or heavy power user worker use cases as well. And they also have standard endpoint as well, which is basically for contact center use cases or healthcare use cases. So on that note, I just wanted to tell the no-touch operating system is hardware agnostic, which can be easily installed on any given hardware in a matter of few minutes. So you can always decide to install this no-touch OS on an old operating system, which you think is almost dead, but you can give that endpoint a new life, and that new life is almost like 4 to 5 years. And there is no antivirus or any sort of tool that is required to manage the operating system. And Stratodesk have their own management software, which will help you in managing all the endpoints under the hood, which are running with no-touch OS. So let's shift the gears, and I'll bring on Paul to talk about what this operating system is all about and how it can help you to serve and to address all the business challenges. Paul, over to you.
Thanks, Manju. So I'm just going to share my screen. So bear with me one moment. So hopefully you can now see my screen.
Yeah, we can see it.
We're all good? Okay, perfect. So for those of you who are probably wondering who we are, Stratodesk were founded in 2010 in Austria by our current owner and CEO, Manuel Perker, and currently we've got offices throughout Europe and the US. Our European headquarters are based in Austria, and our US headquarters are in San Francisco. Here at Stratodesk, effectively, we provide the most innovative and secure Linux operating system that powers your existing PCs and clients, laptops, Raspberry Pi endpoints, and allows you to connect to your VDI, DAS, and cloud workspaces. Now, before I kind of get too in-depth about the solution that we have, I actually just want to kind of set a kind of a bit of background and the challenges that modern enterprises face in the kind of current climate, where we're very much moving towards a hybrid workforce. So the biggest, I think, problem that organizations face these days relate to security, credential theft, unencrypted network connections, threats from viruses, malware, etc. And in a lot of cases, endpoints are basically not up to date, or even they might not have even been patched, and therefore present a real risk to the organization. Another kind of consideration is that many users kind of may have permissions that allow them to do things on their local machine that perhaps that they shouldn't do, which allows them to install software on there that might present, again, another security threat to the network. And it really becomes kind of a fine balance between user productivity whilst trying to stay secure. So, we can, here at Stratodesk, we can provide security controls whilst kind of responding to the employer's need for, an uninterrupted kind of work experience, and providing access from anywhere, as I will show you on the demo. End users want ease of use. They just want to be able to power on an endpoint, log into their Citrix environment presented with their applications or their desktops, and being able to kind of reach out to the IT help desk teams should they need support. From a kind of IT administrator perspective, it's all about, well, how can I control that environment? So if from a no-touch center point of view, we have multi-factor authentication. Obviously, that can be built into the whole login experience so that the user can be presented with certain challenges to show, exactly who they are when they're trying to log in the morning. Security is obviously key. We don't need any antivirus software. And I think another important point, it's really just the last one here, and that comes in relation to patching. We release new firmware maybe every 6 weeks or so, which is driven by the release cadence of Citrix. But we provide a very easy mechanism for doing that in the management platform, where we can then target individual devices or groups of devices with the firmware updates to make sure that these devices are always up to date and compliant. So why choose Stratodesk for creating your ideal digital workspace? Well, we all know about the whole TCO piece. We can present a 50% lower TCO than our competitors. Because we're kind of repurposing that existing hardware, we can double the lifespan of that hardware, if not treble it, depending on how often you might want to update your hardware. We do have customers that have got no touch OS running on devices that are over 8 years old. Security is built in from scratch. So our OS is read-only. We provide a minimal attack surface, and it's also hardened and read-only, so that if something unfortunate did happen, you can simply reboot the device and it goes back to its previous state. No touch OS endpoints are easy to manage, and there's also a minimal kind of learning curve. It's very intuitive, very easy to use. And at the end of the day, what you want to be able to do is to boost your employee productivity. And we have had customers that have said that once they have deployed No Touch OS, they've reduced the number of calls to the help desk by 90%. And then it also speeds up the employee onboarding process, which is something I'm going to show you as part of my live demo. So what is the Stratodesk solution? So effectively, there's two parts to this. We have Stratodesk No Touch OS, which is our hardware agnostic, secure Linux operating system. And in there we have the Citrix Workspace app browser clients in there as well that allow you to connect to your Citrix environment. So we give you that flexibility. We then have No Touch Center, which is our management platform, and we deliver this as a virtual appliance rather than a Windows-based application. So again, it's very easy to deploy, and we support a broad number of hypervisors for this. So what are and I'm going to kind of go to the No Touch OS piece later on in this presentation, but what are the deployment options for No Touch Center? So again, we've got the broadest number of options available in this workspace. You can either have this on-prem, so this will allow you to manage your devices across a local wide area network. Should you want to manage devices outside of the corporate network, then we have the No Touch Cloud extension. And this is a second virtual appliance that sits in your DMZ, and just think of it as a bridge that allows the No Touch OS endpoints to communicate in a secure way, hasten to add to your internal No Touch Center. We also have a SaaS-based offering, and this is where we will host No Touch Center for you in an AWS data center of your choice. And customers that consume resources in Azure, our entire Citrix cloud environment is in Azure. We can have No Touch Center running in Azure as well. And you just need to search the Azure Marketplace, search Stratodesk, and you can deploy No Touch Center in 5-6 clicks of a mouse, and you're good to go. It can also be deployed from the VMware Marketplace as well. So what are some of the core features for No Touch Center? So we can have auto deployment using PXE, or if you have an existing SCCM environment, then you can do that. No Touch OS endpoints can automatically discover the management platform, whether it be on-prem or cloud-based, and using DNS or email-based discovery, which is what I'm going to show today. And we can configure the devices automatically using features like auto assignment. So again, I'm kind of going to, as part of the demo, I'm just going to kind of be a new employee to the company. I'm going to onboard myself into an environment with a fully configured No Touch OS endpoint. Should administrators need to make changes, we can do this at thousands of devices at the push of a button, regardless of location. And the same with firmware updates. As I mentioned earlier on in this presentation, Citrix release new versions every 6 weeks. So our customers want to be able to take advantage of that. Some maybe might don't want to update that frequently. Well, that's up to them. We do provide detailed release notes, but again, we can target groups of devices in a structured way that makes it very easy to bring all those devices up to date. No Touch Center isn't just a kind of a management platform. In some ways, it can be used as a help desk tool. So the endpoints can call home using our identify feature. And again, regardless of where they're located, and administrators can remotely shadow those endpoints using our HTML5 based shadowing solution that uses one-time ports and passwords, and the user has to accept that incoming connection before the tunnel can be established. Should you need to reach out to Stratodesk for support, again, we have a great solution built into our platform called a support file, which basically collects the configuration and log files. That means that when it comes to troubleshooting customer issues, we can do so much more quickly without the need for you to have to keep sending screenshots and just sending of unnecessary lengthy emails. So what are the use cases? So VDI is the obvious one, desktop as a service. We can use this as a web kiosk-based solution. We can lock down the browser, prevent new tabs and windows from being opened. Hybrid and remote working is obviously very prevalent these days. Should you wish to go down the BYOD route, then you can give your users a USB key that they plug into their laptop or their desktop PC at home. Plug in, away they go. You know that they're going to be connecting from a secure Linux operating system where security is not going to be compromised. Repurposing is obviously one of the main things. Point of sale and then IoT in some use cases as well. So what are the benefits? Well, it's secure, it's read-only, we're hardware agnostic, and we really kind of pride ourselves on keeping our operating system up to date, not just the latest versions of the Workspace app, but the underlying key features of the operating system, so that if any threats are found if there are any vulnerability threats found in some of the features within our OS, if your operating system is up to date, the chances are you won't be impacted by that. We offer flexible licensing, so we provide both perpetual and subscription-based model if that's what you choose. Obviously, easy endpoint management, VDI agnostic, you know where we're going with all of this. But one of the most important things is high performant. We're actually taking, in some cases, hardware that is 3, 4, sometimes 5 years old, and we're giving it a new lease of life. And then finally, we've got the cost savings that can be introduced, unified communications, which is very, very important these days. And again, I'm going to be covering that off in some of the existing final slides. So what kind of features, rather Citrix features, do we support? So we are Citrix ready. We have to provide, we have to carry out a huge number of tests. That's actually my role within one of the roles within the company. It's always good to make sure that we're always certified against the latest versions. So that includes, and this isn't an exhaustive list by any means, but browser content redirections, the rendering of 2D and 3D graphics applications, unified communication support. So we provided Microsoft Teams optimization from day one as soon as it became available. We have support for Zoom and Cisco WebEx Teams optimization. If you're using headsets from the likes of EPOS, then we can deploy the agent that manages those devices to an endpoint so that you can manage those headsets should you need to. And we support we have multi-monitor support for up to 8 monitors, including 4K resolution. And then we're also prevalent in the kind of a medical arena. So we've got support for Nuance, Philips and Olympus dictation devices, and also support a broad number of identity access management solutions, including Improvata, Device Trust, YubiKey, FIDO, and other smart card-based solutions. So we're nearly kind of towards the end of the slides for now. So I just kind of wanted to put this one up about reducing waste, increasing your return on investment. So we're eliminating waste. you're not having to constantly refresh your existing hardware every 3 or 4 years. You can extend the life cycle of that hardware by putting a secure Linux operating system on there. You can reuse your No Touch OS licenses. So if you have a license from us, it's not permanently tied to the MAC address or serial number of the endpoint. If the hardware fails, delete it from No Touch Center, install it on a new No Touch OS endpoint. Once it registers, it can use that freely, newly freed up license. There's no requirement for antivirus or malware solutions to be installed on No Touch OS, therefore reducing costs. Can we do that? Yes, we've got support for CrowdStrike, but in some cases it's simply not needed. We provide reduced support costs because we can configure thousands of devices quickly and easily at the touch of a button that requires less day-to-day administration. And another kind of key component is compliance. You know that you're going to be running the latest versions of the operating systems, the latest versions of the workspace app, so you can have peace of mind, and also by limiting how users can access and store their data, which prevents breaches. Finally, we've just got a slide that shows our partner ecosystem from kind of the cloud and platform, endpoints, security, communication, collaboration, and analytics. This list isn't exhaustive, and you can visit our website for further information. So what I want to do now is I'd like to give you a brief demo. This is a live demo, so there's always room for things maybe not going in the right direction, but hopefully will be good. So firstly, I want to introduce you to No Touch Center. And then here I'm using my No Touch Cloud environment. So I'm just going to log in as an administrator. And this isn't going to be an in-depth kind of guide of No Touch Center itself. It's really just to kind of give you an overview. But effectively, the way it works is we manage devices by putting those devices into groups. And these groups have what we call group settings. So think of these as policies. We are very much an enterprise solution. So there are quite a number of parameters that can be configured, but we do optimize. We do turn on the optimized parameters by default without compromising on security. If we want it, we put them into categories as well, so it's easy for you to hopefully find what it is that you're looking for. But effectively, what I've done is I click changed. I can see the policies that I've got set, and I'm not going to go through these in any detail, but this might be typical settings that you might want to push out to a device. We can create subgroups that will inherit the parent group settings so that you can tweak settings that might be unique to a particular country, city, office, and so on. We can then create connections. So here I've got 2 connections. One is using the Citrix Workspace app, and I've set this to automatically start on system boot. We can also configure Citrix Workspace app specific parameters. So here I've enabled things like browser content redirection, Teams optimization, and I'm using what we term as the kind of self-service kiosk mode. So this is kind of simulates the user experience as if the user was connecting from a Windows or Mac OS endpoint. Just like with the group settings, if we click changed, we can get an overview. And then I've also just created a second connection, which is browser-based. And I've kind of put this into kiosk mode, and I actually want to turn that on as well. Now, if my environment was on-prem, I'd have a DNS record, so when the devices boot, they would automatically find the management server using that DNS record. And I'm not going to go through the installation process here, but I am going to simulate what the experience would be like from an end user. Now, if it didn't do anything further, when the device finds the management platform for the first time, it goes into an unassigned group, which then requires another manual step to put it in the correct group before it gets its configuration. You can maybe treat that as a security, kind of a next step for approving the device. But what I want to do to automate processes further is I want to use an automatic assignment rule. So in my case here, I have just put in my home office network address and subnet mask. But you might want to maybe put in an email address with a wildcard at stratodesk.com or yourcompanyname.com. But there are lots of different options. So with these parameters set, effectively what's going to happen is the device is going to go into here and get its configuration automatically. But I'm going to keep this screen open, but I'm going to switch to this virtual machine that you see here. So I'm now a new Stratodesk employee, and I've been sent a laptop by them. And it's a laptop from a well-known laptop manufacturer that's already got Stratodesk No Touch OS pre-installed. So it could be one of our OEM partners. And it's not been touched by the IT department at all. So I'm going to kind of simulate the whole experience, but obviously for your better viewing, I'm doing this as a virtual machine. And I want to show you the out-of-the-box experience. Now, most users these days are familiar with taking an Android or an iOS device out of the box, and then they'll power it on. And during that kind of onboarding process, they'll accept, they'll join it to their wireless network. They will accept an end user license agreement. They'll put in their email address if they've already been using that type of hardware. And once that then registers, it will then restore the settings to that phone. So we kind of have the similar process here. So this is the out-of-the-box experience, and this is what the user would see when they're connecting for the first time. Now, obviously, I'm using a local network here, but I'd be prompted to join this to my wireless network by selecting my SSID and entering in my password if it was available. So I'm just going to go through the wizard. I accept the end user license agreement. Do I want to use the central management? Yes, I do. So note here, the management URL. So TCMGI is what the devices are looking for when they're booting for the first time. If we're using DNS for this discovery of the management server, that's great. None of this happens. It just basically gets its configuration and it's good to go. But just note that the address here just says TCMGR. But this time I'm going to put in my email address. And as soon as I click locate, it's updated the URL. That's because of a record that we've got set up internally, but you can update your DNS service records to do exactly the same thing. It's easily done, and we have a knowledge base article. So what should happen now, and this is always a bit on demos where I get nervous, I'm going to click finish. And if I quickly switch back here, you'll see that the device has gone into my group. And if I switch back, it's now rebooting, because that's what I've told it to do as part of the configuration, just in case I'm starting any services. And you'll see that that entire process was just nice and smooth, easy to do, no complicated questions at all. And I think it's very similar to what many users experience when they buy the latest mobile phone. So what should happen now is it's launching the Workspace app. It's prompting me to log in. If I was using MFA, I'd be prompted at this time, but I've not got anything set up just to make things run smoothly here. So now you can see that I've got access to my applications, my desktops that I have available to me as a user. So I could easily just very quickly launch one of these. It's read-only. The kind of control panel, for want of a better term, is password protected by a password that's been set up by the administrators, so the user can't do anything. Now, let's say there is a problem. Maybe they're trying to launch their a resource here, Notepad, and for whatever reason, it's not connecting properly, and there's an error message on the screen. So the end user would normally call the help desk. Maybe they'll then tell them the IP address or the host name of the device because of the BG info tool. Well, from a Stratodesk perspective, we don't need to know any of that. We have this really cool feature. So they'll be talking to the person on the help desk and they'll say, oh, can you just press a hotkey for me? Can you press Control-Alt-I? So what happens is this, the moment that I do that and switch back to No Touch Center, the device has just checked in. And if I go to this identify function here, I can see the device that's checked in. I can see some basic information about the device, which group it's in. If I click the device, I can see it's powered on. And again, networking information. I can see some of the settings. Now, the next part of this kind of might not look so impressive because it's the device is only sitting in a top tiered group. But if you have several nested groups with devices, with potentially hundreds of devices in those groups, then this works really well. So if I just go revealing tree, it expands the group, highlights the device, and shows me exactly where that device is, so that again I can check what's going on. But now if I want to remotely connect to that device, I can do this using the HTML5 based screen shadowing, and it does this just using one-time ports and passwords each time. So because I'm a Mac user and I'm using Chrome, I have to type the word "this is unsafe." It's got nothing to do with Stratodesk. So it's now trying to connect to that endpoint, and it won't connect until such time as the end user accepts that incoming request. If I click no, it'll just disconnect me. But if I click yes, then it connects me, and then it's two-way. So maybe for whatever reason, we decide we want to tell the user to open up this web browser that we know is in kiosk mode. And obviously this is just going to the Citrix Cloud Portal. But if I just switch back here, maybe the user goes, oh, you know what? I know I can get out of this. Maybe I can try pressing F11, which won't work. Maybe I can press Control-T, so I'll open up a new tab. Now, I've programmed our management platform so that when the user presses Control+T, it's been disabled, because if they keep pressing Control-T and nothing happens, they might call the help desk anyway. Same with Control-N. So we can restrict what so this is now providing that fully, locked down user experience. And throughout this shadowing session, there's going to be a message appearing on the screen until such time as we disconnect. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell in terms of the kind of what we do at Stratodesk, what the management platform looks like. I appreciate that I only have a limited amount of time to be able to show this to you today. But obviously, if you wanted to know more, you wanted a bit more of an in-depth demo, then we can really show you how we can do the installation, go into a bit more depth about how we fully manage the devices, how static profiles work, how the dynamic rules work, how we can configure local or Active Directory users, and setting up multi-factor authentication. All of those are built into our solution. So if I now just very quickly, I know that we're going to be moving on now after the demo. So I'm going to leave that on the screen, and I guess we can now move to the Q&A.
Hey, Paul, that was really good. I mean, I thoroughly followed everything that you mentioned there, and it really came out really well. Thank you so much for showing the demo.
No problem.
So,
it's always nervous doing a live demo, and
yeah,
particularly when you've got a big audience, you want to make sure that that everything does exactly what you want to do. I prefer to do that rather than just record a video.
Right. Since you're showing the demo, there are a few questions about the demo itself.
Okay.
Is there a way that I can get a free trial? Is the first question.
Yes.
I think it's about the OS. Yeah.
Yes. Yep. So actually on the top of the slide that's on the screen at the moment, you can visit our website, stratodesk.com/trial, and then register with your corporate email address, and then we can send you some download links. So that'll include No Touch OS and the management platform, and it's full featured as well.
Great. There's one other question related to that. I know you showed the installation, but the question is around how easy it is to deploy your operating system on any hardware, I guess. Yeah.
Okay, so there are a number of different deployment options. So the quick way to get going is with, we provide a zip file that allows you to create a bootable USB key. That's fine if you want just to do a quick test. But for kind of larger scale deployments, you can use either the built-in PXE server that's built into No Touch Center, or alternatively, you can deploy SCCM. So you can deploy No Touch OS using SCCM. So a lot of enterprises will already have that in place and won't want to use No Touch Center, both of which I will say are fully documented on our knowledge base site.
Great. There are a few questions around how do we get access to the slide deck and recording. So I think so at the beginning of the webinar, I did mention that this webinar is being recorded, and in a day or two, we will send out the slide deck one, and we'll send out the recording as well. So everybody, whoever registered and whoever attended this webinar, will get a copy of the slide deck and the recording as well. So, okay. The next one, do you support disk encryption is the question. Can you answer that? I think it's on
yes, we do. Yeah, we do. So it is a what we call a premium add-on. So it's not included under the normal license, but yes, we fully support disk encryption, and it can also be set up in a way that very much simulates the way that BootLocker works from Microsoft, so that if you set up what we call a user password for disk encryption, once that service has been enabled, the device will reboot and the user will be prompted to enter in a password. And every time the user reboots that machine, it won't boot into No Touch OS until such time as the correct password has been entered. And obviously it also keeps your configuration data fully encrypted at the same time. So if you've got certificates on there, then all of that is fully encrypted and can't be viewed. And again, if you search disk encryption on our website, there's actually a video that I've created that walks through the processes of setting that up. And it's really just about enabling a service and configuring a couple of parameters. That's it.
Okay, cool. Okay, there is another question which keeps coming up from different people. So the question is, how easy or how many minutes does it take to install the operating system?
So if I take PXE for an example, again, we can fully automate that process so that all you have to do is network boot powered on a network boot the device. The rest of the installation can be automated, and I would say it probably takes between 2 and 3 minutes to install per device. Okay. But the good thing is that once you've network booted one device and the installation process has started, you can go to the next one and do the same, and so on and so on and so on. So you don't have to sit there physically in front of that device whilst that takes place.
Okay. So there is this one question related to the firmware. How often do you release the firmware, and how long does the customer have to wait to see the latest version of Citrix Workspace app integrated in it?
Okay, so I kind of briefly mentioned it. So Citrix are the ones that pretty much dictate our release cadence for firmware. So we get new versions of the Workspace app every 6 weeks currently. We will have had advanced preview of that and been able to provide feedback feedback to Citrix of any issues that we might have experienced during that time. Obviously, dependencies might also be new, so that gives us a chance to implement those at the same time. So once that Workspace app becomes generally available, and we get that GA client from Citrix, we typically we have it ready as an early access release within 1 to 2 days.
Okay.
Now we do provide full release notes, so you can see exactly what's been added to our builds.
Great, thanks, Paul. Hey, there are a few attendees asking, oh, sorry, raising hands instead of, I would suggest you to go ahead and put your question in the Q&A section. I'm taking out the questions as it is in order. So please feel free to ask any questions you have. Unfortunately, we are unable to unmute if you want to ask a question, and raising a hand, instead of raising a hand, just put your question in the Q&A section and I'll take the question. Great.
Okay, so I'm looking at the Q&A.
Okay, go ahead.
So one from Andreas regarding kind of, I'll say, unified communications optimizations on the Raspberry Pi.
Right.
So currently,
Paul, if you don't mind, can I just repeat the
Oh.
question so that will benefit the audience? So the question is, how can I use Microsoft Teams, Zoom, and Cisco WebEx on a Raspberry Pi running No Touch OS? That's the question.
Okay, so the short answer to that is it's not supported. It's not supported by Citrix, and it's not supported by the unified communications vendors. So Microsoft don't support it, Zoom don't support it, and neither does Cisco WebEx. Now, does that mean that will it work? So we can present webcams and USB headsets to these applications from a Raspberry Pi, but they will not operate in an optimized way.
Okay. This is a question about how large is the image, what size of the OS, in other words.
Okay, so currently the image size is around 2.9 gig. And compared to other operating systems, that's still small. But we do include, obviously, we've got the core OS, we've got a number of different clients and also web browsers that are built in. Having said that, we do have, let's say, if all you need is just a Citrix workspace app, then we do have a Citrix specific version of our OS. It doesn't include any browsers, but that's just over a gig in size, maybe 1.2 gig.
Great. I will let you read the question as well regarding the 802.NAT and conference set. Yep.
Yep. So with 802.1x, typically what we would recommend is we do what's kind of configuration preload, where you're creating an OS build that's got all the certificates built in already, and then using that image that's then pushed out to the endpoints rather than just the base image. From a SCEP point of view, we have a SCEP client that's built into No Touch OS, so you could create that just like just like a normal Citrix connection. In that, you would point it to your SCEP server, and then all the user needs to do is just enter in a minimal amount of information. But all of that is fully documented for both parts on our website.
Cool. There's one other question. Do you support installation of third-party applications?
Yes and no. Is the answer to that. So do we allow customers to install any Linux application they want into No Touch OS? Technically, it is possible. However, it is unsupported. The reason for that is maybe they install something on there that has that impacts other areas of the operating system, and then our help desk team are going to be flooded with kind of lots of calls to support lots of different applications that we don't necessarily have any knowledge about. We can work with customers on custom projects. So if there is something that you need, then we can discuss that with you separately. But we do support the installation of a limited number of complementary third-party applications. So typically those are additional browsers. So if, for instance, whilst we include Chromium and Firefox by default, you could deploy Chrome or Edge for Linux. Using that, you can deploy the EPOS agent, CrowdStrike, even newer versions of the Citrix Workspace app. If you have a private build from Citrix, for example, and you need to use that version rather than the Stratodesk version, then you can do that. The plugins for the likes of Zoom and WebEx Teams, all of those can be fully deployed. So using No Touch Center, and the way that you do that, and I can just show you very quickly. I'll probably just need to log back in. So let me just move some things around. So, for instance, if I go here to miscellaneous files, and I've got a number of files that are in here. So I've got Microsoft Edge for Linux, the Debian file. So this is obviously just a beta version. So I'll have downloaded that from the Microsoft website, and then I can just upload that file here into No Touch Center. And then it's available now for distribution. So rather than the internet being the distribution point for these applications, it's actually No Touch Center is going to become the distribution point. So from here, all I would then do is if I stick into my group here, I can go to my settings. Let me just go to here, and we call this an extension module. And again, this is kind of fully documented. So I would then search for the package that I want it to deploy. So here we've got Microsoft Edge. Sorry, I just need to keep moving things around. And then I would, let's just pretend that that's the right one, even though we know it's not. But basically, I'll just choose the file that I wanted to deploy here. And then as soon as I announce that change, an announcement is what we do when we want to push a change out straight away to devices. And then, and that could be a configuration change, it could be a firmware update, it could be pushing out a piece of software. And we can do this at either a group level or even at a device level. So there's no, it's very granular, and from that point of view, we then just reboot the device. And as soon as we've done that, the device is rebooted, it will install that package onto the endpoint. So hopefully that answered that question.
Yeah, I think so.
Sorry, I know it was a bit long-winded, but
no problem.
Complicated topic.
Right. So there are questions about how do we become a partner to resell your product and all of that. So I request anybody having such questions, just drop an email to us. The easiest way to remember is citrixready@citrix.com, or you can always reach out to Paul as well, or Stratodesk as well. Do you mind bringing up that last slide where you had the contact info? Right.
Yep, there you go. Yeah.
So I think the easiest way is edge@stratodesk.com is the email address. So it's EDGE, like edge@stratodesk.com is the email address. If you have any questions related to reselling or becoming a distributor or reseller, so you can write an email at that email address.
Yeah. So I think there was just one final question that wasn't answered.
Yeah, I'll come to that. Right. So what is the best practice in creating a connection to Citrix environment? That's the question.
So I think what we'd certainly recommend is that customers use the native Workspace app to connect, but we can connect via a browser. It's not a problem, but I can show you the process. So let me just get rid of this Q&A because it's hijacking my screen. So I've gone to my group settings. It's here where I'll go to a new connection. I'll just call this test. And then what I need to do is choose a connection type. So I can go to the Citrix Workspace app. I can obviously also connect via browser, but this is the most secure way to connect to Citrix. You'll put in your URL. You can pre-populate the domain if you want to, make it easier for your users. Obviously, we wouldn't recommend populating username and password. We can set it to automatically start on system boot, but as you saw in action, and then we can configure Citrix Workspace app parameters as well. So again, I briefly covered those, but this is where you'll configure, things like the Teams optimization, Zoom optimization, browser content redirection, There's a whole host of different settings that you can configure, and they're all in here. So when we then want to push that out to an endpoint, so this is the endpoint, and I'm just going to remove this window. So this is really just to show you how easy it is to push out a connection and how quickly it is. So because I've done this on a group level, it would impact every single device in the group, albeit I only have one. But I'll then just click announce. And then we'll just quickly switch back here. And then within a second or two, all being well, the screen will flash. He says, there you go, it's doing it now. And there you go. Now, bear in mind that this virtual machine is in my home office in my where I live in Manchester in the UK. My no-touch cloud environment is in a data center somewhere in an AWS data center somewhere in the UK. So it's not on-prem. So this would, that's how quickly that process takes.
Hey, Paul, this is really good.
Thank you.
We still have 3 more minutes, just in case if somebody want to ask any questions, please feel free to ask. There is not a question, but there is an appreciation for you, Paul. It was an awesome content and demo. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for hosting us.
Right. So, oh, that was from the attendee, by the way. Okay.
Right.
We still have 2 more minutes for any questions. So while we wait for the next question, so like I mentioned, so we will get back to you with the recording and slides, what will be presented today. For more information about learning and getting in touch with Paul or Stratodesk team, I have put some links on the chat window where everybody will have access to. So edge@stratodesk.com is the email address for partner questions. And if you want to visit the partner portal, it's partners.stratodesk.com. If you have any questions related to Citrix and Stratodesk together, or anything that you want to discuss with Citrix, citrixready@citrix.com is the email address. Great. And I see no other questions. I think that was a good one then. So, Paul, thank you so much for walking us through.
Thank you for hosting us.
Yeah,
I appreciate that.
You did a great job in sharing your experience, showing us the demo. Everything is crystal clear, very crisp and clear of in your demo and in your slides as well. So thank you so much. And to all the attendees, have a great rest of your day and happy weekend. We'll be back again with our next webinar very soon. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.